Okay, if you look in your order of service, you'll find a covenant and a litany of interim partnership. And I will read the first part. You will read the second.
And I just want to say, I don't know if you've done this sort of thing before, but I think it's really important at the beginning of a relationship in the ministry to say some things to one another so that we get started on a good footing. We progress at the speed of church and and the speed of trust, and it's a mutual thing. So this is an effort to get us moving in a good direction. So.
All right. May all members of UUCIL rise in body or spirit and enter into this covenant together with our interim minister.
Thank you.
Okay. You, as our partner in ministry during this interim period, at the threshold of our brief journey together,
I receive your welcome as your partner in ministry during this interim period at the threshold of our brief journey together.
We will use our hands and hearts, our vision and voices to heal and not harm this community of seekers through this time of transition.
I will use my hands and heart, my vision and voice to heal and not harm this community of seekers through this time of transition.
We will dare to disagree with you with respect, generosity of spirit, and integrity, and with kindness, and to dream what we may become. We will freely imagine and venture into the untried, for at the end of this interim period we shall part.
I will dare to disagree with you with respect, generosity of spirit and integrity, and with kindness, and to dream what you may become. I will freely imagine and venture into the untried, for at the end of this interim period we shall part.
We shall not sit and stew, but come forward with concerns, hurts, wonderings, in the appropriate time and place. We will hold ourselves and one another accountable and lavish upon you appreciation for all you do for the ministries of UUCIL.
I shall not sit and stew, but come forward with concerns, hurts, wonderings in the appropriate time and place. I will be accountable and hold you accountable too, and lavish upon you appreciation for all you do for the ministries of UUCIL.
We will share our portions of truth with you, listen deeply and learn, that together we may grow in wisdom, vision, understanding, kindness, and compassion.
I will share my portions of truth with you, listen deeply and learn, that together we may grow in wisdom, vision, understanding, kindness, and compassion.
We are members of UUCIL, servants to the congregation on the transition team this year. We will listen deeply, taking our role as a sacred trust, and attend to the progress of the ministries of this loving, caring community. As the congregation prepares to call a new set of minister, there is work to be done and play as well. We will support our interim minister, who has committed herself to help us on our way by being responsive with communications, with honest feedback, with kindness and guidance for the sake of the common good. It is with gratitude to you,
Transition team members, for your service to the common good of our congregation, that we pledge our cooperation and support for your good work this year. It is with gratitude, Reverend Jade Benson, that we pledge to be responsive to your communications. We pledge our cooperation in support of you and your ministry. we will strive to bring out the best in ourselves and one another and all who serve UUCIL.
It is with gratitude that I travel among you, work with you, and accept the privileges and responsibilities of my role as your transitional, your interim minister for this year. I will strive to bring out the best in myself and in all with whom I serve UUCIL.
In this brief and precious time,
May we be a blessing to each other and together be a blessing to the world. Thank you. Thanks so much. It says here it's time for the sermon. I see it right here. Someday they're going to have a Fitbit that has, like, besides your heart rate and, you know, all that other good stuff, they're going to have something that says, time for you to talk. So. I am pleased to be here with you today. I want to talk to you today about hope. You know, the title is Hope is Not Idle. It's the title of the sermon, the title of the service. Hope is Not Idle. How many of you saw the story in the New Yorker maybe a couple years ago where a fellow called into a radio show on C-SPAN? He, let's call him Greg, and he called in, and this woman, Michelle, was the radio host. She was a very accomplished woman, and he was a veteran who lived in the hills of West Virginia. And he called in, and it's relevant to note that he's white and the person he was calling is African American. And he called and he said, I don't know what to do. I know I'm racist. I know I am. And I know it because of how I feel around people different from myself. And I got a lot of this notion about our differences from TV shows, news things, all kinds of things. It's built up in me, and I need help. Wow. I need help. I want to be, he said, a better American. What can I do? Well, I just imagine that the host was taken a bit aback at first. But she responded calmly, it seems, and they had a conversation. They had a conversation. They had a subsequent conversation, and several others where basically she was saying, well, you need to get to know people, not what you read in the media and so on. Just you need to get to know people. He actually came to Washington and met with her. They had lunch. They developed a relationship. And what he said is sort of like somebody who's sick going to see the doctor. She was so helpful to him. So he was trying different things, and he had to go to the VA, where he went fairly regularly to volunteer near where he lived. And what he had said to her is that he goes there, and there are a number of African Americans there, and they don't like him. They don't like him. And they talked about it, and she said, well, what makes you say that? And he said, well, I don't know, they never talked to me. So more discussion, and the long and short of it is he decided to do a little study. So he created a little chart, number 1 to 10, and he went to the VA and graded each interaction or non-interaction. Ran into African American so-and-so, 3. Ran into so-and-so, 2. All these low grades. Well, it was suggested in his own thoughts, not by our friend in Washington, that maybe he needed to start the conversation, eh? So he didn't know what to start with. And then he decided he'd keep it simple. And so what he did, he'd walk up to somebody and he'd say, "Nasty weather we're having." Or, "Traffic, it's getting crazy around here, huh?" So he did this, and he started grading each interaction, 8s, 9s, 8s, 9s, 8s, and 9s. That story, a true story, gives me hope and a little taste of courage. I'm making a smoothie here. I'll have some hope and taste of courage and a few other things mixed in. That's the kind of thing that gives me hope. Now, I came here last week but didn't help lead service. I had just come back the night before from Mexico, where I was studying Spanish in a 4 to 5 hour a day, 2-week process with lots of tarea, homework. And I had decided that I was feeling hopeless and helpless with the immigration issues that are going on. And I'm sure people have different ideas about how to solve the problem, and please be sure to share them with your elected officials. However, I really was feeling so down about it all, about so many things, but that in particular. And of course, the whole business of children and families being separate, it was heartbreaking to me, and I know to many of you what to do. I decided that learning Spanish was going to be my hope, my action, so that I could listen to somebody talk about their situation, whether it's locally or going down to the border, and listen to people share their experience and understand a bit more directly from people who are going through their experience. I decided that's how I was going to take back some of the power that I felt stripped away from me in this situation. Hope is not idle. So for a moment, what I'd like you to do is think about one thing in your life, whether it's in your own personal circle or out in the world, one thing, and formulate a phrase or sentence that summarizes what's that one thing that gives you a spark of hope out in the world, your world, this community, wherever. Can you do that? Take a moment. Everybody got something? Okay, so turn to somebody nearby and just, in a sentence or phrase, don't explain it, don't nothing, just share what it is. Okay. I hear more than a couple sentences being exchanged. Okay, we good? When people don't settle down when I ask them to, I start singing. So for my next song, I will be singing Somewhere Over the Rainbow, Birds Fly High. Okay, you got the idea. You're gonna have to deal with this. You got a whole year of me, okay? Here's my sermon here. So hold on to those thoughts, not only the things that you thought of yourself, but what you heard from someone else. Okay, just hold on to those things. So I study Spanish. I'm in a class now. I was in one this summer. I had taken Spanish years ago, but you know what they say, you don't use it, you lose it. So I took a class this summer. I went for 2 weeks of intensive. I'm in a class now. It's a little over my head, but that's okay. I'm pushing, I'm doing it, and I'm committed to taking one step at a time and trying to do this thing. So I was listening to Krista Tippett. Anybody know Krista Tippett? Great podcasts. And she introduced one of her podcasts. She said, I don't usually interview politicians, but this time, Cory Booker. Anybody hear that? There were several people. After this service, they will testify in greater detail. But anyway, he was talking, and they had a great conversation. I was very impressed. Mary and I were taking a long drive, and we were listening to it. And then at one point, she seemed to want to change gears and sort of get a little lighter, maybe. She said, so, you know, what books are you reading these days? And what are you doing? And what he said is that he's studying Spanish 10 minutes a day. I thought, 10 minutes a day? You gotta be kidding me. 10 minutes a day. And then, you know, the truth is maybe he knows Spanish and he's just refreshing, you know, who knows. But when I heard that, I thought, man, I was already spending so much time this summer online with Duolingo, several hours a day for 2 months and taking this class, and he's 10 minutes a day? I don't know about that. But then I thought, well, that's maybe some of his hope in his busy day. So I just sort of let that percolate over here. Okay, fine, I have to do it my way, the intensive way. And I thought a little more about why I'm learning. You know, what else is there to it? Because it sounds really grand that I'm going to go listen to people. And that sounds all good. So how many of you know about no more deaths? No más muertes. I see one hand. So the long and short of it is I went down to near the border a few years back, where this organization that was started by one of our UU congregations in Tucson has a camp in the mountains. And when they find people, or people find them, who are trying to cross the border and come to the United States, it's not that they're telling them, rush in this direction. In fact, that would get them all arrested. But what they do is they provide water and medical care so people don't die. Because the truth is people die out there. So it's not judging them for what they're doing or not doing, but it's saving lives. So I went down there. I was with them for several days. And we had to, at one point, go out and carry these heavy jugs with us. Heavy, for me, jugs of water up and down hills and plant them. Plant them where people might come across them. And as we walked, we saw things like a little child's little backpack laying in the ground and a cross that was laid in memory of someone who had died. We saw all kinds of things, but one of the things I found the worst of all, because after all, we were carrying jugs of hope. You know, if you see, wow, you're thirsty, and you're really thirsty, and there's a jug of water way up there. And so we would go up to those jugs, and you know what we would find? Very often we'd find them slashed. Yes, so the guards, not all the guards, but there is a way that the border guards try to discourage people by slashing their hope, that jug of hope. So that's another thing that stuck with me. Why I want to be engaged in this learning of Spanish, somehow to take back some of that power to be active. Hope in a jug. How many of you know William Barber? The name William Barber? Okay, he was the head of the NAACP in North Carolina, and he started the Moral Monday movement. Anybody know what that is? Every Monday, a whole bunch of clergy and other folks would march in Raleigh and stand up for rights of the disenfranchised and people living on the margins, etc. Anyway, he has a book, has several books, but one of which is The Third Reconstruction. And in this book, how many of you read the book? I'm going to be asking you lots of questions. How many read the book? It's not a test, just wondering, how much I can, embellish or not, and you'll know. So anyway, he's got this story that he tells in the book. His grandmother would prepare breakfast for him on a Saturday. And he'd sit there, and every Saturday, breakfast would be on the table, he'd be eating, and she'd be getting stuff out of the fridge, and she had a basket, and she would put her Bible in the basket and some food, and she'd go out the door, she'd open the screen door, open the other door and say, I'm going out to hope somebody. I'm going out to hope somebody. And for years he thought she was making a mistake. She must have meant she was going to go help somebody. For years he thought she was making a mistake until much later in life he realized, and he wouldn't correct her. No correcting grandmother. But he realized later that's exactly what she meant. She was going out to bring hope to somebody. Her version of hope was food for the body, and for her, the Bible, food for the spirit. She was hoping people. These are the kinds of things that bring me a little bit of hope myself. You know, I have to find it. We have to find it out there. But the truth is, my friends, at least my version of truth, my piece of the truth, is that hope is alive and well in each one of us. It's part of being human. It's kind of like a little candle that doesn't burn you, but sheds light inside. So I'd like you to think for a moment of hope as being this candle that's lit and nothing can blow it out. So that when the transient of the world brings us down, when the events of the world bring us down, we can go to that place in us of the permanent, that place of hope. And when we join hands, I don't know if you all, do you join hands at the end of the service? And well, today you're gonna. When you join hands, often, I don't know about you, but oftentimes I think good thoughts, I think warm thoughts and everything, but I want you to think about joining the light of that hope that's inside you. And hold that in your heart today and in the days ahead. Time marches on. Let me check my script here. Did I say everything? Oh, no. The one other thing I wanted to say, I wanted to get back to Corey because he talked about studying Spanish and he talked about learning from a mentor, a woman who managed a building that he was living in, Miss Virginia Jones. She managed the building when he was in law school. He lived in an apartment and her son was shot to death in the lobby of that building. But she stayed there, and she worked to organize the community. And she asked Corey, so what do you think about this community? And he said, well, you know, this area, it's full of drug dealers, and there's a lot of violence, and, you know, you can imagine the rest of it. And she said, you got to change your attitude. Yeah, those things are here, but if you walk around with that in your heart, your mind, and in your words, you cannot be a change agent if you cannot see the beauty and the hope, the kindness. If you can't see those things, you cannot carry hope to others or make real change. I got that. Does that resonate for any of you? I mean, it sounded like, oh, okay. You know, I'm from Brooklyn, and we're very good at complaining. I know other people are too. I don't want to. I know somebody here, Keith, your grandmother is from Brooklyn. I mean nothing against her. But then the one other thing that he said is that studying Spanish for him was a spiritual practice. And suddenly all my stuff about, I'm going to this and I'm going to that and whatever, which I hope will come to pass, it got kind of deeper. It went beyond the head and even the heart in some way, someplace deep inside. I thought, okay, this is going to be my spiritual practice this year. So I'm going to take care of my family, and I'm going to serve you to the best of my ability. And one of my main spiritual practices will be studying Spanish at least an hour a day, every day. So, I guess that wraps it up for me, huh? Yeah. Blessed be.
This is my earth, and I live in it. It's 1/3 dirt and 2/3 water, and it rotates and revolves through space at rather an impressive pace, and never even messes up my hair. And the weirdest thing about it is, the force created by its spin is the force that stops the chaos flooding in. This is my earth and it's fine. It's where I spend the vast majority of my time. It's not perfect, but it's mine. It's not perfect, but it's mine. This is my country, and I live in it. It's really big and nice to walk on, and the bloke who runs my country has built a demagoguery and taught us to be fearful and boring. And the weirdest thing about him is he's conservative in politics, but he's really rather liberal of tweeting. This is my country and it's fine. It's where I spend the vast majority of my time. It's not perfect, but it's mine. It's not perfect. This is my house, and I live in it. It's made of cracks and photographs. We bought it from a guy who bought it from a guy who bought it from a guy whose granddad left it to him. And the weirdest thing is that this house has locks to keep the baddies out, but they're mostly used to lock ourselves in. This is my house, and it's fine. It's where I spend the vast majority of my time. It's not perfect, but it's mine. It's not perfect, but it's mine. This is my body, and I live in it. It's 37 and 3 months old. It's changed a lot since it was new. It's done things it wasn't built to do. I often try to fill it up with wine. And the weirdest thing about it is that I spend so much time hating it, but it never says a bad thing about me. This is my body and it's fine. It's where I spend the vast majority of my time. It's not perfect, but it's mine. It's not perfect, but it's mine. This is my brain, and I live in it. It's made of love and bad song lyrics. It's tucked away behind my eyes, where all my screwed up thoughts can hide, 'cause God forbid I hurt somebody. And the weirdest thing about a mind is that every answer that you find is the basis of a brand new cliche. This is my brain and it's fine. It's where I spend the vast majority of my time. It's not perfect, but it's mine. It's not perfect, but it's mine. It's not perfect. I'm not quite sure I've worked out how to work it. It's not perfect.